Have we started yet, or is this just pre? So far, we're not doing so much any better than they are.
No, but you just gave me a good clip for the intro. I like that. So
There you go.
we started yet. We're not doing much better. I love it.
Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly. Well, welcome back to the DCL podcast, your podcast to help you and your family cruise a little smarter when the ships are sailing. I'm your host, Steve Creasy, and joining me today are our two co-hosts, Christy Puttick from Pack Your Pixie Dust. How you doing today, Christy?
I am well. How are you, Steve?
Not too bad. And all the way down in Los Angeles, Chris Bright. How are you doing today, Chris?
Doing great.
I'm excited today because we are going to connect with one of our favorite guests ever that has been on the show. He is a award-winning comedian juggler from New York City. He is back performing once again. Welcome back to the show, Marcus Monroe. How are you doing today?
Hi, good. How are you guys doing, and girls? How's everyone doing?
We're doing great.
Yeah.
Marcus, you just have been back on the road again doing some performances. But before we talk about that, I think, Christy, you got a question to kick us off.
So we're going to talk about, right, as Steve said, the performances on the road. But let's go back to the beginning. When the world changed, when shelter in place changed or started, cruise ships stopped sailing, what did you do with yourself?
Funny story is that when we went into lockdown, I'm in New York City, so it was kind of like we were quarantined fairly quickly. And I was already scheduled to be off cruise ships for 6 months during that time. So I was like going to use this time as, kind of regrouping, rewrite some stuff, use it for, some me time. Not like I wasn't really taking time off. I just wasn't going to be on ships. So I didn't really get it. The beginning part didn't really affect me so much just because I knew I wasn't going to be on ships anyway. So it's not like I got a whole bunch of contracts canceled. But being home and not being able to go anywhere, not being able to go on a plane really got me a little crazy just because I've never been in New York for more than 2 weeks without getting on a plane. Never, ever. So it was weird to not go anywhere and to just be home all the time. But I really started, reconnecting with my wife a little bit. We travel all the time together anyways, but it was just nice that we we could just be present with each other, not have to worry about the next thing or making a show by this time. So that was really, really nice. It was nice to see at 7 o'clock, everyone would go outside and clap for the essential workers. And my wife and I would do that, even though we would go in our back door because our front door just is like an apartment complex door. So it wouldn't make sense to go out there and clap. But we went in our backyard and clapped. And it was really nice to see other people in our building clapping. It was kind of I felt a sense of community and support, like one heartbeat, one pulse in New York City was really good. It was just a crazy time, and it's been nice to see how serious New York took this pandemic from the beginning. Of course, looking back, there are probably some things that could have gone a little differently, but you never know until you do it. But it was nice to see everyone kind of rally together, and now things are starting to open back up little by little. So it's been nice. Did I answer your question at all? Oh my gosh, I don't even remember what the question was.
Yeah,
you gotta rope me back in sometimes because I go off. Part of my thing is not knowing what I'm saying. And I open my mouth and I start sentences. And then I'm while I'm in the middle, even right now, I'm where is this going? So I'm not.
So it's like Chris talking.
Yes, exactly. Chris, for backup, Chris here, it is 7:50 a.m. Los Angeles time. He did just wake up probably fairly recently.
Yeah, that's an accurate statement. Christy, you have 3 hours on me.
Yes, I do. So back to my question, which you did answer, which was,
good.
How did Shelter in Place go? So Chris and I did a bunch of puzzles at the beginning of Shelter in Place. Yeah. We were posting all the different puzzles. Did you guys get into the puzzle game? What else did you do?
We did we even started a puzzle yesterday. In fact, I have all these puzzles over here that I didn't even get to. This is this one I got on eBay, which it's an NSYNC puzzle that I bought. It's 30. It's too big for our coffee table, but I bought it not knowing that. Yeah, but we do the Dowdle puzzles, and the fun thing is the Dowdle is like if you saw it, you'd recognize his artwork. It's like an artist and he does all these puzzles, but he does all these cruise ports. So we did like St. Martin, we did Juneau, we did, what are the other ones? Oh, Key West. And it's just kind of fun to like, oh, we've been to all these different places and doing that. So that was nice. That was nice. But yeah, we're still doing puzzles.
I kind of want to go back to that question, I guess. I mean, because you as a traveler and you as a creative person, I mean, I know that all of us that love traveling with Disney Cruise Line and just in general, kind of felt, that's a loss that we've had. We haven't been able to be out there on the road. But you as a creative person, too, wanting to, expand yourself and perform for people and everything else, that's like two ways of being locked down. But you found some different ways to be creative and get out on social media. Could you talk about some of the videos you created?
Yeah. Sure, yeah. So a few things. The first thing is I was like talking with my manager, and he's like, well, now's the time you got to really like up your socials, which is such an icky thing to say. But he was totally right. Like I had all this downtime, so I started really spending a lot of time making these really short videos on Instagram. They took like all day to edit, and I started getting very little payoff. Like I would edit all day, and only like 1,000 or 2,000 people would watch the video. And I'm like, that's kind of like a waste of time. But it did fill that void of like wanting to be creative and wanting to work on something. And I went to film school, so I was kind of using some of my old film school techniques and making these little videos. But it really just became something to keep me busy, keep me occupied during the day. It wasn't like I thought this was going to like really break me or anything. But what I also started doing was having like these little parties, I called them, where I posted on Facebook. I said, hey, if anyone's interested, any families from Disney or whoever are interested in having me like do like a Zoom call with your family, and I'll hang out. I can teach you how to juggle. I'll do a little performance for you, and I'll charge you like $50 for a half hour. And I thought maybe like 3 people would sign up, but I got like 50 families to sign up. So for the first like month and a half of quarantine, almost every day I would have 3 of these things. And it was so much fun just to connect on people on a different level than I usually would. And I made a little bit of money, but it really wasn't all about, it was just like I got to connect with these kids and ask them questions and help them. Some of them were jugglers and like juggle for them and teach them things. Like I would, not literally, but almost figuratively, like go into their living rooms and like, I'd be like, hey, show me around your house, and I would get tours, and it was just such a fun thing. Sometimes it was like a birthday party. I was like a birthday surprise. I had a quarantine birthday too, so I understand like you can't have your friends over, so you do it all digitally. That was really, really fun. The other thing I did, just to wrap up this question, Stephen, I joined TikTok. I signed up for TikTok, and I know I'm in my 30s. I shouldn't be on TikTok, but I've had a really good time on there. And like I had maybe like 7 videos get over 1 million views, and it's been pretty nice to have. I don't know. It's so silly. It doesn't mean anything. It's so just something to do to pass time. So I've been posting videos on there too, which I don't know if I should admit that, but it's
you
fun.
Should. I love TikTok.
So I'll be on TikTok for the next couple of days at least until it goes away, until Trump bans it.
One of the videos I really loved was the one that the one that you just recently put out, and I'm not sure how you did it. I'm guessing the one where the balls kept going up.
Right.
Do you remember that one?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I was in North Dakota, and they had a slant house there, which is this guy, his name is Don Otto. He was a performer who used to do this act where it was a diving act on a trampoline. So there'd be a diving board, and he'd like jump onto a trampoline, but it was very physical, very slapstick. He retired that act, from what I understand, and became a carpenter, and he built this slant house in Medora, North Dakota. So I don't even understand how it works, but you walk into this room and everything's slanted, and then things look like they shouldn't be going the ways that they are, and there's like no rules of gravity or physics go out the window or something. I mean, but really it's just like, like your eyes playing tricks on you. But that was a fun video to make, because I honestly had no idea how it was done, even though I was the one making the video. I didn't understand it.
Where was that video?
That was on my TikTok. Wait, Steven, are you on TikTok?
I've Yeah, because my son's on TikTok. He hasn't made any videos, but they're
excuses.
Yeah.
My son's account.
Yeah,
trying to keep him safe.
Exactly. So, do you think some of these videos and stuff like that are the things that you can incorporate in your show? Were you able to incorporate anything into your shows?
Oh, I don't really think so. I don't know if I could. I kind of try to keep it separate. I sometimes post show videos to my socials, but I never really take anything from my socials and use it in my show. It's definitely something I could do, but I don't know what it would be yet. Because a lot of times, like different content doesn't work on different platforms. So like a video that does really well on TikTok won't necessarily translate to Instagram or to Facebook. So you kind of have to find what works in each platform.
Gotcha. So, Chris, why don't you take us into going out to North Dakota and how that happened?
Sorry, I'm now on your TikTok looking at your videos. So,
thank you. Hey, everyone should do that.
I also had a quarantine birthday in August. It's still August. And I'm also in my 30s. And I also enjoy TikTok. So, you know what? Millennials are taking over all of the social medias. It's fine.
That's right.
Okay. So I have been to Fargo, North Dakota for a speaking engagement in my day job. I can tell you that there was not much to do there, and I'm sort of surprised that you found yourself in North Dakota. So can you tell us how and why?
So John Cassidy, who is one of my favorite performers on Disney, he's the balloon guy. Do you guys know John Cassidy? He does a magic show, Balloon Animals. I don't know if you've ever seen him. He does this show in North Dakota every year for like the last couple of years. And he was telling me about it. He's like, oh, you should do it. I was like, okay. Because it's like they have like 3 performers that do it every summer. And you do about a month, which is, a really long time to commit to something. And I was like, okay, yeah, it sounds really fun. Like I knew I wasn't going to be on ships for a while. So I was like, okay, this would be good. And this was before the pandemic happened. And so what this show is, it's a very patriotic musical about North Dakota, about Medora, specifically this small town that has only 112 people year-round living there. But for some reason, this town has become a tourist attraction because Theodore Roosevelt lived there for some time. And it's also, they have the Theodore Roosevelt National Park. So that brings people to this town. And they have this outdoor amphitheater that has like 3,000 seats. And every single night, 9 shows a week, they do this show called Medora the Musical. And in like halfway, at the start of the second act, they have a variety act that comes out and does like 15 to 20 minutes. And that was my spot. And then it's like this big musical, like there are live horses on stage, there's fireworks, there's a band. It's quite the production. So that was the show I was doing in North Dakota. And while I was there, I found a lot of fun stuff to do to keep me occupied, to keep me busy. I was only there for 2.5 weeks. They shortened my contract due to the pandemic. They had to kind of move all these things around, and I had other engagements. I couldn't stay for the whole month of August. It was a really fun experience, and I actually met a lot of people who had seen me on Disney Cruise Lines that were in North Dakota. It's so funny how I meet, almost any time I do a public show, someone will come up to me and say they've seen me on Disney. I think that's really neat. It's really cool. I mean, I have been doing Disney now for maybe like 6 or 7 years, so it makes sense. But it still is cool when that happens, especially when I'm so far away in North Dakota, so far away from any like major city or anything like that. So that was a show in North Dakota. Really, really fun, great crowds. For social distancing, they only let 1,500 people tops into the theater, so they cut the capacity in half. Like I said, everyone was outside. You could only sit with your family. They were like, they social distanced the audience. It was a lot of fun.
So they social distanced the audience, but did you as a performer have to like stay away from the other performers and wear a mask and do all of that? Or because I have a lot of friends who are actors, especially on Broadway or in theaters, that are just not in an outside space. And it seems like very difficult for those people to go back to work. So I'm curious, like, how they figured this out for this space.
It was really interesting how it happened. So I'll call them the cast, the singers and dancers in the band and the techs, I'll just like call them the cast. They all kind of stayed in this like campsite, like this campground, and they kind of just only hung out with themselves. My wife and I were in a hotel, and we had masks on all of the time until we were on stage. Then I'd take off the mask and do my show. Then I put my mask on, go down to my dressing room. I didn't really do much socializing with the cast. We were friendly and said hi and chit-chatted a little bit, but we came from New York, so we still had our guard up a lot about COVID. I would say about like 80% of people, though, in Medora, when they were outside, were not wearing masks. Although, like I was, my wife was, just because we had, if we got COVID, we would, be out of work for so long, and it's not a good time to take off work, especially because I do a lot of colleges at the end of the summer and early fall. So I wanted to make sure I was healthy for that. So we took our precautions. They also tested everyone every week. They also took your temperature every day. They took their precautions, and they did it right, because there still hasn't been a single case of COVID in Medora. So that's really nice that we know of yet. Yeah.
So this was your first time performing again. What was it like to get back on stage? I'm assuming it was your first time performing again.
It was actually my second. So I had done a comedy club in Wisconsin with TJ Miller, who I've been touring with on and off for the last 10 years. I'm from Wisconsin, and he knew I was going to be in Wisconsin. So the funny thing about TJ is, I texted him. I said, "Hey man, I'm going to be in Wisconsin. If you need me to come in and feature for you at the club, I can do that." And he's like, "Okay, cool. I don't think I'm going to have a feature, but thank you anyway." I'm like, "Okay, no problem." He's doing things differently with COVID. He doesn't want to socialize with a lot of people. I get it. So I fly home to New York on Tuesday. On Wednesday, TJ texts me. He's like, "Hey, my shows are tomorrow. You want to feature?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, I'm back in New York now." He's like, "Oh, darn it." But I'm like, "Okay, but I'll do it." So I flew back to Wisconsin, and then I got to do my first shows were July 18th or something. Or no, wait, July, maybe it was 10th. So I had off from March, April, May, June to July. Yeah, the middle of July. So it was 4.5 months of not really performing live. It's crazy.
How was it like to get back on stage? Was it cool?
It was cool. It was terrifying. So for those of you who don't know, I do a comedy juggling show, but I've been doing just straight stand-up lately. So I didn't do any juggling with TJ. It was one of these shows where I was just doing stand-up. That was really fun. It was really freeing not to bring a big trunk of gear with me. Yes, Christy?
Did you do stand-up in a mask?
Yeah, so Wisconsin, I was able to take my mask off because just like in North Dakota, they kind of struck the first few rows. So I was further away from the audience than I usually would be. After North Dakota, I had a day off, and then we went to Philadelphia, then Nebraska to do some college shows, and I had to wear a mask during those shows on stage. And while the audience was also wearing a mask. I mean, that is so hard because I didn't realize how much of my show I rely on my facial expressions to kind of guide the jokes and everything. So I'm doing the faces thinking everyone can see me, and, not understanding really that half my face is covered. Then I'm looking out into the audience, and they're just, all I see is eyes looking at me. I don't know if they're enjoying the show. I can't tell if they're smiling. It is the weirdest thing. So I told them, if I look at you and you're smiling, just start blinking a lot so I know that you're feeling it. Otherwise, I have no... And I don't think people laughed as much because they were wearing a mask. And also in the college show I did in Nebraska, every chair was 6 feet away from the other chair. So no one was in groups, and it was weird. But it worked great, and it was safe, and that was the most important thing. And also, no one thought live entertainment was going to happen this year. So I'm so lucky to be able to do that, to do what I love, and to provide people with live entertainment. Because not only am I happy to be there, but the students, the kids who come to these shows are also very happy because they're like, "Oh, this is a little bit of normal that we need." So they were very thankful for us to come out to their school and do shows. And it was just thank you guys for coming. Thank you. Yeah, it was great. I love that the kids came out to the show. Oh, it's crazy. I can't believe it's been so long without performing. And I have this new joke I say on my show, which is I haven't done a show since March 14th, not because of the pandemic. I just don't know how to get booked. And to me, that's the perfect way to start my show now, because it's so true. I'm sorry, I'm going to be so rusty. And now things are changing. I don't know what the landscape of this world is going to be for the next couple of months.
did you continue to juggle during the off months to keep practicing?
Train?
Yeah.
Oh, practicing a little bit.
I mean, besides the teaching.
Yeah, a little bit. I honestly don't practice as much as I used to. I'm more focused on writing comedy than I am like juggling at this point. I do probably practice like five times a week, maybe a little over an hour every day. But really, that's just like to maintain it, maintenance, so I don't forget it. Like what I've really been doing is just trying to write new jokes, write new material. So when I do come back, when I can play clubs or ships again, I have new stuff. And I've also been booking myself at some of these outdoor park shows in New York City. They'll have like stand-up shows on rooftops or in Central Park. And so I just booked myself for a few of those yesterday, and hopefully they will go well.
You're, though, like the perfect type of act to come back before others because you're a one-person solo situation. So it's like,
sure,
you're not in a play where you have to kiss someone or where you have to like have a lot of physical contact. If there were to be live entertainment,
you just to the devil. If there was,
I really did.
You're right. I'm very lucky that it's very self-contained, and I can do my show without a lot of moving parts. No pun intended, but it's just like I can come into a show, do it without having to touch anybody. I don't have to use volunteers if I don't need to. I can do it all very safely and very just like one-man operation.
So I'm going to kind of go back to North Dakota here just real quick, too, because I'm kind of curious. For somebody going to Medora next year, do you have any, did you find any good restaurants there?
You're going there?
No, no, I'm not going.
Steve is imagining that some of our listeners are like, Medora, I've got to go.
Yeah. So did you find some good restaurants there or what was?
There's not really any. There's a wine bar there, and they have food, and they have like flatbread. It's called Uncorked Medora. That was my favorite place to eat because they had flatbread pizzas, and after the show, I'd call them up. I say, hey, I'm done with the show. Can you make me a flatbread? They say, sure. And then I'd run upstairs, take my bow, like do curtain call, then drive home and then stop there, get my pizza and go back to the hotel and just like watch The Last Dance or something. That was great. There's only like 4 restaurants there in Medora. There's really not a lot of stuff there. My wife's vegan. I'm vegetarian. It's really hard for her to find food to eat at times. There was a cafeteria that the cast ate at, and we would go there. The head chef there became a buddy of ours, and he was making us like vegan food, which was very, very friendly and nice. When it comes to stuff to do in Medora, the number one thing I would recommend would be the Theodore Roosevelt National Park. We went there, saw a bunch of wild animals, wild horses, lots of bison. There's like mini golf. I mean, that's like a good 30 minutes of your day. There's like a zip line. There's like fun things to do. And there's museums, just walking around. For us coming from New York, it was just such a different experience. And it was a place we never would have gone, never would have vacationed to or anything like that unless we did this show there. So it was just cool to see this town and the people that came in. Very nice. Very nice.
You flew to North Dakota.
I did.
And I also flew to North Dakota to Fargo. And there were 5 gates at the airport. And the person who worked at the gate would be like, I'm going to be gone for 20 minutes because I need to go to the front of the airport and check people in. And then I will put a sign up and go back to the gate and get people on the next flight. So was this the sort of situation that coming from New York, you were like, this is a new level of small town for me?
So I flew into Bismarck, which is 2 hours away from Medora. I think Fargo was 4 hours away from Medora. It was one of those really, really small airports. But doing cruises, a lot of the ports that I fly out of have really small airports too, where they kind of, the person checking you in also loads the bags onto the plane, also flies the plane, also sells your food. So, I'm used to one person operation in like an airport like Grand Turk or something in Turks and Caicos. They have really small airports. Same with like, I don't know, St. Thomas is kind of a small airport too. So I was used to that, but it was kind of refreshing actually to see, because the people working there have to be so efficient. because they can't rely on other people to get the job done for them. So like as a millennial, I'm like, how do you do it? But they seem to get it. They seem to get it done. So I like the small town vibe. It is really kind of cool. And it's one of those things where like, people come to New York and say, well, I could never live there, but I could only vacation there. It's one of those things for me where like I could never live in a place like Medora, but I would like to go. I like to go there once a year or something. Twice, maybe once every 2 years or something.
Going forward, Marcus, you talked about writing comedy. How do you see when the cruise industry starts back up again? How do you see kind of your show changing? Do you think, like, when Disney reaches out to you, are they going to want you to do juggling and comedy? Are they going to kind of expect you to do that? Or how do you think that's going to kind of evolve for you?
Well, I think, like, in terms of material in my show.
Yeah.
So I've talked to them, and I told them that I can do shows with no juggling, just stand-up. And they were like, oh, send us some of your stand-up. So I sent them, then it was pretty radio silent for a while. But I think that's just because they're not booking acts right now. They don't know what they're doing. So, yeah, I mean, I think I really can do anything I want in my shows. And as long as it's good, they won't say anything. So, I have a feeling if I were to do like an adult show, I would just do all stand up and maybe just a little bit of juggling in it now. And I would move some bits around from my adult show to my family show. I think that's what I would do, just so I can, and that way I can also say, hey, if you come to my adult show, it's just mostly stand up, just to let you all know that. So, that's something I could do. But I also think now with, the pandemic and everything, they're really going to try to, I think we're going to see some, I don't know, I don't have any insider information here, unfortunately, but I don't think they even know what's going on yet. But I do think we're going to see a change in format when it comes to the entertainment. I think for Disney to provide that entertainment standard that everyone is used to, some changes are going to have to be made to do it safely. And I don't know what that means for the variety acts. I don't know if that means we won't be in the theater anymore, if that means we'll have a different schedule. I don't know. And I think they're still trying to figure it out. I think everyone will have to kind of play ball for the first couple of months and just see how it goes. And I think it might be trial and error on my side, trying to see what material works, what doesn't work. My show was very interactive in terms of getting people on stage and helping me out. And that made every show a little bit different when you'd have volunteers helping you out and customizing the show for that experience. And now I don't think I feel comfortable using people from the audience coming out on stage. I'm sure Disney's probably like, we don't want that either. So figuring out how to work my show without volunteers is going to be a challenge, but I think it's like I've already been doing that pretty much when I do college shows in Medora. I didn't use any volunteers or anything like that. It's all pretty self-contained now, which I think is going to be the way to go for the next couple of months, maybe a year or two. So we'll just have to kind of see what happens.
Speaking of being self-contained, it is... Oh, look. No one can see, but Marcus is juggling for us.
Yeah.
Okay, I cruised on one of your last Disney cruises in February.
Oh, on the Fantasy? Where were we?
I was on the beautiful Fantasy, and it was the one that stopped in San Juan.
Oh, okay, cool.
So this is my thought, though. You were an elusive mer person who did not appear on the ship in any way. And I had told Steve, I was like, if I see Marcus, I'll say like, hey, from the DCL podcast and like whatever. You were only ever in the show, and then it was like you didn't exist on the ship. So I never saw you or said hi to you. What do you do on the ship?
Oh, man. That's so funny. I feel like it's the opposite. So I try really hard to kind of go undetected sometimes because I'd like to remain a little mysterious. Too much of me is a little like no one likes it. So I try to.
Hopefully, your wife's okay with it.
Yeah. I hope she has to be. And also, I'm getting better at it. But when people stop to talk to me on the ship, I kind of lose. I don't know what to say. I don't know if I should be like in character. If I should just like. I'm not really good. I'm getting better at it, but I'm not really like. Sometimes people see you on the ship and they want you to be that guy they see on stage. And like, if I'm like having an off day or I'm just kind of like going to the gym, I don't want to like spin around and yell my name. So it's like there's some things that I do. So I kind of like go to eat off peak times. I keep busy. I read. My wife and I will sometimes go lay out. Usually we have projects we're working on. Like I'll be editing videos, and she'll be working on stuff. So we try to use our time as productively as possible when we're on the ship, just because. Yeah, it's almost like a vacation, but it isn't, because we do it's like 25 weeks out of the year we're on a ship sometimes. So like we try to have like a little bit of a routine where we won't sleep in that late. We won't, we'll try to be productive. But I'm sorry, Chris, that you did not see me on the ship.
No,
I'm
not throwing shade.
I have no doubt that our conversation would have been just as awkward as as any of my other previous conversations with anybody else.
I mean, I sensed that. I thought, you know what? This is probably intentional. This is probably Marcus saying, I don't want to be seen. But the best part is, on our own show, I had made a joke because you said something like, I'm doing an adult-only juggling show, and whatever that means, I don't know.
Yeah.
And also, everyone in my party was like, what is an adults-only juggling show? Is he going to be, like, naked, or, like,
right.
is it just, like, a very unusual thing? And then you were on the ship with Buckets and Boards, who literally wore pasties and, like, did a little, like, adult humor joke, and I was like, okay, I feel like these adult shows are just like throwing everything out and seeing what sticks, which is very, very different than the main shows, because the main shows have that vibe of like,
polished.
This is rehearsed. Yeah, this is polished. Yeah.
That's what I love about the adult show too, is that I have less of a filter. Like I still am on Disney, so I still have to maintain a certain sense of self-awareness that I can't just go off on anyone or whatever. But but you're right. There's a lot more fun you can have on those adult shows, and it's a lot less stressful than it is when you're headlining the Walt Disney Theater. There's a prestige that goes along just being on that stage on those ships, and it's the big event of the night, and there's a type of pressure that I feel. I don't want to disappoint anybody. I want them to be happy. So I try hard to do well on that show. And then usually if that show in the Walt Disney Theater goes well, I know my adult show will go well, because people kind of get my vibe and they kind of know what I'm the kind of humor I'm going for. When that does happen, you have a lot more leniency. You can take more risks in your adult show because the audience is already on your side. And when that happens, you can play with them a little bit more, versus when you start with the adult show before you, like, if for some reason, sometimes my adult show is first and then I'll do the show in the Walt Disney Theater. I have to kind of make sure that show is more polished, less chaotic than it typically would be if it was following the Walt Disney Theater show, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. So strategic. I like it. But yeah, I will shout out your adult show. I liked it even more than the main stage one.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I have a lot of fun doing that.
So let's stick with cruising, Marcus. What is it about cruising that you and your wife are missing? Besides doing the shows and whatnot, but just cruising in general. What are some of the things that you're missing?
Getting paid.
Yeah, I think getting paid is like number one. Just meeting people. Like I hope I didn't make it sound like I don't like meeting people on the ship. I really do. I just feel like I let people down, because I'm maybe not as cool or as funny as I think I am. So I never know what people expect from me, but I do really enjoy that aspect of meeting people, getting that one-on-one time. You can go your whole life without taking a whole cruise. So I'm very, very lucky that it's my job and I get to travel the world, and just waking up in Castaway Cay or something is really exciting. Just hearing the waves and getting rocked to sleep I miss the little things like that. I miss like ordering room service at 2 a.m. Just the things that everyone misses about cruises is the things that I miss too. One of my favorite things is the Halloween at sea, and because I love seeing the costumes that people go on Disney. People go pretty hard. Like there's only 2 levels on Disney. It's like extreme and really extreme. and people. I just love to see the creativity in the costumes and just there's a good energy on when you're on a Disney ship when you see people having fun on vacation. It just makes you feel good. So I kind of like that. Also, I love Moana. And anytime I can see Moana on like the deck, I'm very stoked.
I don't know if I expected you to be a Moana fan.
Oh yeah,
I don't know what I would have expected.
Oh yeah, the waterworks start going. Oh yeah, it's great. I love. I'm a big fan of Lin-Manuel Miranda, I think, and The Rock. So I like both those things combined, and Disney. So it's great. I love Moana.
I wonder if they could ever get you out to Aulani to do a show once that opens back up out in Hawaii.
I would love to do that. Let's do that.
Steve, tell the people at Disney. What has Disney told you about the fall cruises? I know, so you were scheduled. You've been canceled, right?
Ish. I've been put on hold. So I don't know how much I can divulge, but my contracts were supposed to start in October on the Magic. I got an email when this started, the pandemic started, that said, we don't know what's going to happen. So if other work comes your way, please take that work. It's a pandemic, so there's not a lot of other work starting. So, so they kind of send out an email about like once I don't know what it's been like, maybe like a month ago, I got an email saying, just let you know, like your dates in October are not going to happen, obviously, but like we'll let you know about November. So I still don't know about November, December, I don't know about that, but I'm just kind of waiting to see what happens. And I think everyone's kind of in the same position where they have their dates, but they're all just all kind of up in the air, all kind of tentative dates. Like I have shows on Friday. I'm supposed to drive to Bethesda, Pennsylvania, or something, and I don't even know if that's going to happen
in 4 days.
I don't even know like if that show is going to go virtual or if that's going to be a live show at this point. I have no idea.
You probably answered this on one of your past shows, but I'm curious which ships you like the best. What Disney ship? Or actually, I'll go industry-wide. Do you have a preference in the cruising world for your favorite cruise ship?
Yeah, so it's okay. So that's a really good question. So I really like the classic ships when it comes to the adult show. What's it called? Like Fathoms? Is that the cabaret room on the Magic, I think?
Fathoms and Azure, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those rooms are much better to play than like the Tube or Evolution, because those rooms are so long and there's like a bar right in the middle of the room, and the bar can be loud sometimes. So I like the classic ships for the adult show, but in the cabaret room. But I really like the Walt Disney Theater on like the Fantasy and the Dream. So I think that would be my favorite, and like it would be like a Disney for sure would be my favorite cruise line to work without a doubt. And I've worked others. I've worked Royal, Princess, Celebrity, a few others. They're all great. They all have their pros and cons, but Disney has way more pros than it does cons.
I think everyone on this podcast would agree that Disney has a lot of pros.
Yeah, absolutely, and especially when you compare them with they're an entertainment company that has a cruise line, so they get that part really well, versus like a cruise line that's going to have some entertainment. They're just held to a higher standard too when it comes to entertainment, so that's they take that very seriously, which is good.
So I'm kind of curious too, you've been all over the world kind of cruising. Is there a place that you haven't been that you'd like to go?
Yeah, like I've never done a cruise on the Med. I know that the Magic does that, and I think that would be really great. I would love to do a Med cruise, go to Greece. I think that would be really fun. But I've done Alaska, and that's like probably one of my favorites. I think just like breathing that air, and just when you're on the ship in Alaska and you're going down the channels and you can like see on both sides land, and I think that's really cool. And like your cell phone works a lot of the time there too, which is awesome. Like that for me is like I'm 35. That's a big deal for me to be able to like have phone service all the time. I haven't done I have done a Hawaiian cruise, but I flew from New York to Hawaii, did my show that night, then flew back the next day. So it wasn't like I got to experience Hawaii, but I've vacationed there a few times. So I kind of have in other ways.
So as the kind of pandemic kind of rolls along, and obviously your industry's really been affected, how can people support you guys? I mean, you talked about, the Zoom calls you've had and whatnot, and you're now being able to go back out and perform a little bit. But what are some of the ways that people can support, acts like yours and others in the industry?
That's a great question. And I think the number one thing is, well, there's two things. A lot of acts are hurting financially. I'm in a good spot. I don't spend a lot of money, so I'm okay. But I think if acts are selling virtual shows or tickets to that, I would recommend, and you're a fan of theirs, make it a day. And I've seen a bunch of virtual shows that my friends have done. I've done a few of them. And if you can buy a ticket to a virtual show, just do that, because, you'll have a good time and you'll support an act you like. Another thing is to support their socials. A lot of times acts right now, like what I was doing earlier, was just really posting a lot of videos on Instagram, and building socials is a good way to help. And it kind of fills that void where you can't perform live, but you can post some videos and kind of feel that same thrill of seeing how the video does and making. So if you enjoy people's content, let them know. Everyone is different though, in terms of, how you can help out and just show support. Just sending a message to someone, or a nice tweet saying, "Hey, I hope you're doing well. I can't wait till you get back on the road." That'll help a lot too. It's just one of those things where I think everyone's in the same boat. Everyone in the world is going through this right now, and we just need to come together. And just, if we can be positive and help people, build people up, and stop tearing people down. Remember to vote this November. That's very important. I also think just hearing other people out. The main thing is just is being there for people and being appreciative and thankful, and just try to be positive. Man, I don't know. That's not really about other performers, but just how to treat other people right now in general. Just be a little bit more compassionate, a little bit more caring, and that'll go a long way.
Any final questions, guys?
I don't want to mess it up. I liked that ending.
Well, Marcus, I've really enjoyed the content that you have been creating. I'm sorry, just like all of us, we're all kind of stuck here, and we can't wait for the world to get moving again, to get back out sailing, traveling, performing, doing whatever it is that you haven't been able to do over these last several months. But I've really enjoyed the videos that you've created on TikTok, on Instagram, and everything else. And I really want to encourage everybody to go over to your social media sites and follow you. But before we talk about your social media sites, what shows do you have coming up for people that they could possibly attend?
Well, if you want to find out where I'm going to be performing live, you can go to my website. I usually post my shows there. I would check with the schools if I'm doing a college to see if the public is allowed at the shows. I really don't know. I don't get that information. I'll be doing some rooftop comedy shows in New York City this September, and I really, really hope to be back on ships before the end of the year. But we'll see what happens.
And then in social media, how can people follow you?
Yeah, so if you just type in Marcus Monroe on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, you should find me. If you want to get more specific, it's at Marcus J. Monroe on Instagram and TikTok, and then at Marcus Monroe on Facebook and Twitter.
And if anybody needs a TikTok account, they can use mine.
Yeah.
If you don't want
your son's account.
If you're older, you can use my son's account. I'm just kidding. Well, thanks again, Marcus. I really appreciate you coming back on.
My pleasure.
All the best to you, and we look forward to having you back on again soon.
Well, that's going to wrap up our show today. Once again, I really want to thank Marcus for coming on and sharing with us and all of you out there what he's been up to since the ships have stopped sailing. And hopefully both entertainment, live entertainment, and the ships themselves are going to be sailing here soon for all of those performers out there. You can hear more from Marcus in episode 95, where he described how he got into show business, where he came from, and what it's like to perform on the Disney cruise ships. And then also in episode 110, where we hit him up for some different places for people sailing out of New York City to spend their time and eat and all that fun stuff that you can have in New York City. So once again, just a huge shout out to Marcus, and want to thank him once again for being such a huge friend to our show. We are going to have a contest with him coming up here soon. Watch for it on our Facebook and Instagram page. 3 lucky listeners listeners are going to have the ability to get a cameo experience with Marcus. So watch for that contest coming soon via Facebook. If you would like to reach out to our show, if you have any questions, if you would like to appear on our show, if you would like to talk Disney Cruise Line, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney, you can reach out to me, Steve, at DCLpodcast.com, and we'll get you set up to have you on a future show with us. If you would like to support our show, you can do so via our Patreon program. Go over to patreon.com/DCLpodcast, and you can find all the information there. Also, if you have time to leave us an iTunes review, we sure do appreciate it. It helps us get the show known in the cruising Disney and Disney Cruise Line community. For those who are interested in this type of entertainment, it helps them find the show just a little bit easier. So between now and our next show, if you are heading out on a staycation, a vacation, or just getting those kids off to school here as online or in-person school starts, on behalf of myself, Steve, Christy, and Chris, all of us here at the DCL Podcast, we wish you and your families all the best. Be well out there, and we'll see you next time on the DCL Podcast. The DCL Podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.